Hi guys, welcome to the Beard's Unchained podcast. I'm Tiffany. This is Derrick Beard, and today we're bringing you another episode, a very special episode that'll be recapping Derrick's sermon from this past Sunday, where his topic was standing on business and a subtopic of the next chapter. He came from Luke chapter 2, verse 49, and we're going to let Derrick summarize his sermon from this past week.
So to set the scene for you a little bit, in Luke chapter 2, 49, we see where Jesus' parents have been looking for him amongst his family for 3 days now. And upon finding him in verse 49, they asked the question, "Where have you been?" He responded, "Why do you look for me? Didn't you know that I will be about my father's business?" So in 1 Samuel chapter 17, Goliath have been terrorizing the Israelites. He is a giant, a Philistine, and apparently nobody wants smoke. For 40 days, he has been telling them, come on, man. Like for real, let's throw these hands. Anybody. King, your brother, anybody. And David happened to be bringing his brother some bread and heard him talking about this and asked the question to all of those people like, ain't none of y'all ready to fight? None of y'all got hands?
A young boy.
Young boy. David was a young man, but he had already been anointed king by Samuel, already had the anointing of the Lord. And with this anointing, he told his brothers, he told the kings, I'm about to stand on business. And at that point, he took a sling, hit Goliath in the head, knocked him out, chopped off his head. And now everybody is praising. Everybody is going crazy about David. He's turns out to be the man around here.
David, you the man.
You the man, David. Saul kills his hundreds. David kills his thousands. So now all the people are praising David for what he was able to do during his anointing, during his good season. But in the very next chapter, we see where now Saul, he's sick of this. He's sick of all this praise. He's sick of everything that everybody is giving towards David. And now the very same person that told him to fight in the chapter before, in this next chapter, is now wants him dead. Now Saul wants him dead. David is running for his life. But I think the kicker to this text is that he had the same anointing in the first chapter as he had in the second chapter. And as we go through different phases of life, we'll see where life circumstances change. Life circumstance gives us a lot of different things. Like one day we can be on top of the world. Next day we can't. Like our circumstances and our environment changes quite a bit. But the question for y'all would be, would you stand on business no matter what your circumstance is? In this chapter or the next chapter, would you still be able to stand on business? And we see what Jesus, he's telling those people, when you look for me, why didn't you look in the church?
Yeah.
Y'all looked amongst your family. Y'all looked amongst your friends. You even looked back at the house. They had made it all the way back home. And why didn't we look for him in the church? And the question would be for you, Tiffany, is when people are looking for you, where will they find you at?
Hey, they gonna find me doing something God called me to do. Hopefully. Hopefully. That's the goal. But I think that, and we didn't talk about this, but in the text, something that I noticed that you didn't talk about in your sermon is the fact that they went all that time, Jesus' parents went all that time and didn't even notice he was missing. Didn't even notice he was gone. And it's crazy because, like, if you put that into, like, our lives today, sometimes we cannot even notice that we have changed our position. We done got out of alignment with God and didn't even notice until hard time come. And we wondering why we stressing, why we worrying, why we are having such a hard time. And it's because we left Jesus back there.
So in other words, we don't notice that Jesus is gone until we start looking for him.
Yeah.
Until our circumstances suggest that Jesus is no longer here. Now we're running back to the church. So my question for you, Tiffany, is what have you went through in life that made you stand on business the way that you do?
I think the stuff that I have gone through, some of the things that I've gone through, I think that I don't ever know until, after you go through something, you be like, I'm never doing that again. And for me, it's been really sacrificing my time. And I think that that's the biggest thing. Like, I procrastinate to do the things that God has told me to do, but I'm super willing to jump in for anybody else who need me to help them with something. So I could be asked to like do anything, and I have so much motivation, to make sure that that gets done. But I don't put that same energy into the things that God has called me to do. And then further on down the line, I beat myself up about it because I know that God told me to do it. I know that I had the time to do it, but I sacrificed it. And really, that's mismanaging our resources. Time is a resource that you're not going to get back. And so that would be the main thing. And learning that lesson now, it helps me to make better decisions with my time. Like, I can't go with you today, or I can't have no 2-hour phone conversation with you today, or, just being able to use my time a lot better and putting it in the right position.
Right. And mismanagement of time is something that we see hurts our family
Yeah.
significantly
Yeah.
when we're not intentional about
Yeah.
spending time together. We're not intentional about making sure that we're putting love into the love basket. When we're not intentional about separating our family time from our time, that mismanagement of time will tear your family up.
Yeah.
So I have another question. Do you
What?
feel like you're standing in position now?
In position, I do. I feel like I'm in position, but I also feel like I could improve my effectiveness of my position. So for some reason, like I think about a car, and like being in position to me means like you're in your lane. And so it's like I'm positioned in my lane, but from time to time, I start looking to the left and looking to the right. And just like what he illustrated, that's exactly what happens. You're going to be swerving. And I'm trying to train myself to be more disciplined and be more focused on the things that God has given to me to do. And so while I feel like I'm in position, I do feel like there's still some work that I need to do in order to maintain my focus so that I can actually make it, to the finish line of those things.
Good, good, good. Are there any traumas or hard times that you feel like you've went through that makes you stand on business against me?
I mean, that's a loaded question
Loaded,
because
loaded.
we got almost 11 years of trial and error, when it comes to certain things. So I think that we've gotten to the place where it's not about me standing on business, like putting my foot down about stuff. It's more about, those sweet little reminders like, hey, we didn't do so good last week. We need to get back on track. In the same way you do me. Hey, last week was trash. We need to focus on, improving in this area this coming up week. So I think that our marriage and being married as long as we have and going through our many ups and downs have taught us how to address those not so good things in a gentle way for us to make sure it's in the forefront of our minds moving forward.
So those weekly check-ins
Yeah.
is what's keeping everything in
Yeah.
the forefront of our minds. What does it look like for us to stand on business together?
I think standing on business together, um, this podcast. This podcast is a great example. This was something that God gave to us 5 years ago. And, although I'm sure that throughout them 5 years, God was developing us and, getting us ready for this moment. But now we standing on business. All right. What does standing on business in our marriage look like to you?
To me, standing on business together means supporting each other's ministry, picking each other up when we're down, being in tune with each other with not only words, but with actions, with thoughts, being very intentional about the way that we do things, um, being in position to hear from God, and that puts me in position to lead my family the way that it needs to be led. And we got to get ourselves stay in position, which means we got to stay together.
Yeah.
We gotta stay together. We gotta acknowledge each other. I can't love you any type of way. I gotta love you the way that you want to be loved. And Tiffany is mostly 80% an emotional person that needs emotional support. She needs to be heard. She needs to be understood, and she needs to be pretty much catered to. And that's the way that I stand on business for my family. And I'm sure she got a lot of the things that she's intentional about to make sure that I'm okay. But my number one goal is to lead my family and to make sure that my wife is prayed over, my wife is prayed for, my wife getting her needs met the way that she wants them met, the just helping put her in position to succeed. That's how I stand on business for my family.
I think that I think that's amazing, and that's good because I do need to be catered to.
You're just a little
I was just
baby.
about to say that. I'm
You're just a little baby.
I am. But there's one thing that I want to encourage our listeners, especially the married ones. I want to encourage you guys to stand on business together. Whether you are in a serious relationship looking towards marriage or you are married, I want y'all to know that the enemy does not want you to be on the same page as your spouse. The enemy's mission is to divide and conquer. So I think I got a question asking what does our goals look like? And I think that up until this year, I know I had separate goals, but I am being super intentional and making sure that any goal that I have is one is something that God has told me to do, and then two is something that is going to merge our ministries together. Because while we started off with separate ministries, ultimately it's going to be one.
Yeah.
It's going to be one ministry. And so we have to be super mindful not to allow the enemy to divide and conquer in our relationships.
For sure. I think that's pretty much all we got. Beer game.
Unchained.
We in this thing.
Peace.